Thank you. Community Service Committee meeting will come to order at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, August 20th. Thank you for being here. We'll have roll call.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Parker?
Present.
Mr. Legess?
Present.
Ms. Polk?
Present.
Mr. Snipes? Ms. Peters?
Present.
Ms. Dunbar? Mr. Fairfield?
Present.
Mr. Zenz? Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Featherling?
Present.
Mr. Swanson?
Present.
Ms. DiColo? Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Seroy?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Hope you've had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting. Thank you for sending them so quickly and swiftly. Many of the reports will be follow-ups today from things we talked about the last time. So can I have a motion to approve the July 16th minute? Ms. Parker, Mr. Featherling seconds it. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed say aye. The motion is carried. Dan Hendrickson will bring the county clerk's report in your packet. While he's coming forward, will someone move that we accept that report? Mr. Eckhoff and Mr. Swanson seconds it. Thank you for being here.
Where else would I?
Can't imagine. We did, didn't we? We did approve it.
Yeah.
He was thinking.
Oh, I'm just asking in the awesomeness of this all. Just wanted to touch base with you on a few things, not just for information purposes only. Last week, staff went down to Urbana to the cybersecurity conference presented by the State Terrorism Information Committee. You know, while I have full faith in the cybersecurity of the election process and full faith in it, it's never a bad idea to go there to get ideas, things that we can do better. I sent out a press release last week. I don't know if any of you saw it or not, but you know, sometimes a lot of this stuff has been precipitated by the events that happened in the 2016 elections. None of that happened in Kankakee County. Our machines are secure. For somebody to hack them, well, I'm not saying it's impossible for them to be able to access them. It would take a concerted effort, and I'm not sure that you know, there's a lot of people that are trying to break into Kankakee County to influence what race. So I have full faith in our election process. Also, State Board has sent us information. We're going to need to do the polling place surveys again. They sent us a questionnaire that's about 10 pages long, which is about 5 pages longer than it's been. So it's going to be a little bit of a time-consuming process, and we're looking at maybe a vendor to help provide some automation for that process. But what they're looking to charge for it would be less than $1,000. So we're gonna look at that software, and we'll move if we need to on that. Some events that are coming up that may be of interest to some of you. September 3rd is the first day to circulate petitions for the 2020 general primary election. We will have packets available in our office and online. September 17th is Constitution Day. And KCC, as they have in years past, have asked us to come out and be part of a voter registration drive. September 24th is National Voter Registration Day. We'll do up a little something in the office, and we'll have some decorations out, and certainly make sure that the public's aware and encourage everybody to come get registered to vote. October 8th, we're going to be partnering again with Asbury United Church and Project Homeless Connect. This is the third year that they've been putting this on. They're providing services to the less fortunate in Kankakee, those that are homeless and indigent, and we're going to, if somebody needs to get a birth certificate, we're going to be able to provide them one at no cost. So happy to be partners with them on that. And if anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Is there a question? Is the Asbury at Asbury?
It will be at Asbury, October 8th, from 9 to 3, 9 to 4.
Good for you. Mr. Snipes.
The electoral college is being voted up on in this upcoming election, is that correct?
The Electoral College being
Or
voted on?
Not the electoral college, but the individuals that's going to be on the electoral college. Those individuals that are elected by the
Delegates
people.
would be elected at the 2020.
Right, so that's coming up,
Correct.
okay, on the thing. So they have the they make up the electoral college, I believe it is.
I'm not 100% sure of that.
Oh, okay. But they're the delegates that we choose to vote for the president
At the nominating convention.
at the nominating conventions.
Yes.
Okay, so that's just a primary only right there?
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Hold on a second, tell her. You must-
Madam
eight.
Chairman, just, we know that circulation of petitions at 9/3, and just for general information for everyone out there, the deadline to file is,
Filing period is November 25th through December 2nd. So that does include the 2 days that we will be closed for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So
just want to make sure,
don't come knocking on the door that day.
try not
Oh,
to.
you can knock, but
You can knock.
I'm not gonna knock, but no one's gonna answer. Okay, thank you.
November 25th through December 2nd
anything else?
for filing here for local races.
The minutes indicated that at the next meeting, you will report on what happened at the 2020 census meeting with Lindsay Parkhurst.
Well, it was pretty much just a formative committee talking about the creation of local count centers and making sure that, we hit all the communities that were necessary. There wasn't really anything as far as, organization of committees or anything, just general, these are kind of the things that we need to do. And the state representative was willing to provide whatever assistance she could. And I guess I was there to lend whatever expertise that I had to the situation. They did not mention you specifically, Mr. Legess, about that person coming to your door. No. I think that you may be on a watch list, but.
We all know that. I don't have a watch, I use my phone. I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Dan, in the 2020 election in November, we run in the present districts we have,
Correct.
and then,
Redistricting won't take place until the summer of 2021.
okay,
And then in 2022 will be the first time that all the county board seats will
Right.
be up at that time.
thank you.
So yeah, everybody who's filing this year for county board, it will be for a 2-year
2
term.
years. And then the next is a 4. No.
Well, there'll be a lottery to determine which county board spots are the first 4-year and the 2-year and.
Oh my, didn't remember that. All right. Well, with that news, is there any other questions? And thank you.
Okay, thank you all for your time and attention. Have a great day.
2022.
Eric, you have some good news today? Come on. Report's in your folder and packet. Will someone move that we accept that report? Ms. Dunbar? Ms. Peters? Is second. All in favor of accepting Eric's report, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say aye. The report is accepted. Okay, let's get.
Good morning. Got just a few things to report to you this morning. As I've stated in years past, for those of you who are new to the committee, August is a pretty busy month for my department. All months are busy, but this one's really stressful. This is where the rubber meets the road. So I'll go through some of the things that we've gotten done since the last time we spoke, and then get into a little bit of what is to come after that. So since we last spoke, I did receive all of the township assessment changes. Those were in by the end of July, which allowed me to move to the supervisor of assessments level, which is where I put in things like wind energy formula values and things like that, and the townships get a chance to add any more new property and things of that nature that they didn't get into their book. They still have another little bit of time to do that. We cut that off, I believe it was the 14th of August, and I did complete equalization over the weekend, so we are ready now to create the this kind of moves me into the things that are pending. We're gonna create the publication and notification file so that we can get it over to Postal Partners and let them print the assessment change notices and get them folded and stuffed and ready to go in the mail. As long as we don't have any major hiccups in creating those files in the next couple days, I would anticipate publishing on September 12th, which has been the goal since the beginning of the year. I would have told you that was the date that I was hoping to hit, and I believe that we are going to do that as long as there's no major hangups in the next day or two, but I don't see how that would be. And then once that happens and we get to September 12th and we publish, that will open the 30-day window to accept assessment appeals. And then we'll move on into the Board of Review level and let the Board of Review hold their hearings and things like that, and hopefully we'll be able to finish by the end of the year as we have every year since 2015. So with that, I'll open the floor for any questions, please.
Is there a question? That assessment publication are in those 3 newspapers you mentioned at the last meeting?
Right, it's the Daily Journal, the Herscher Pilot, and the
Moments, isn't it?
Moments Progress Reporter. Thank you. Yeah, those are the 3 left that we publish in.
At that meeting also, Mr. Snipes asked that it be posted, I think, in the building. Is that right?
That is something that I would like to talk maybe with the chairman about and see if we want to advertise in any other ways. But yeah, he and I can certainly talk
Okay.
about that and
Thank you.
forward.
Anything else? I wanted you to mention just one thing about being happy at this time rather than at the tax time.
Oh, sure. You know, I talk about how it's a stressful month in August, and it is, but it's also where all the dates converge, and when we see it come together the way that I had planned from early on in the year, it's a gratifying time to see those things happen. One of the things that I like about this time of year as opposed to the tax bill time, when tax bills come out and people are unhappy with their bills, there's really very little recourse for the public against their bill. But at least this time of year, when we publish the assessments, this is when they have the opportunity to file an appeal if they're unhappy with their value. So at least if somebody comes to me this time of year and is unhappy with their value, I can always offer them the recourse of filing an appeal and letting the Board of Review take a look at the case and make a decision. So I think this is a much better time for the taxpayer to bring that forward because there's more options to them at this moment.
Thank you.
Or at least not at this moment, but in September when we
Time.
publish.
But if some of our constituents ask or complain about their tax bill, what our advice is to see you for the form, or is it online, the appeals?
We do publish put the assessment appeal form on our website through the county's website. We have a link and a page for our department, and the rules and procedures for the Board of Review are on there. The appeal form is on there. The publication and filing deadline will be on there. We put that on there. So they can do it either way. They can see our office or they can get online and access it themselves. The one thing I would like to clarify though, even though I know a lot of people like to talk about their tax bill itself, when they file an appeal in September, it's really an appeal against the assessment value itself, not the tax bill, because tax bills have so many other factors that go into the levies from other taxing bodies and things like that you're not really appealing. You're appealing whether or not you feel the value for your property is appropriate. It's 2 separate ideas.
It's still a good appeal to pay attention to, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Mr. Snipes?
So the period to file, I guess, to make a objection to the assessment is from what period to what period?
So as long as we don't hit any major hurdles in the next couple days, and I don't believe we will, I counted it out yesterday tentatively, and it looks to me like if we publish on the 12th of September, which is a Thursday, the last day for us to accept appeals is going to be Tuesday, October 15th. It would have been the 14th, but that's Columbus Day. We're closed. So I would have to kick it to Tuesday, the 15th of October. I'm going to go downstairs and make sure that I firm up that date and make sure that that's correct. But when I counted it yesterday, that's what it almost has to be. The 15th of October would be the deadline.
Okay, then also, because I know a lot of individuals in the African American community, Hispanic community, does not get the Daily Journal. And I do know that they have Taylor Publication is their reason that prohibits us from kind of publishing in their particular paper or sending something out to these, like a letter that you can just fax me so I can send out to the ministers to kind of make them aware so they can share that in their churches, because I get the repercussions that they are forgotten and they don't know the dates, and then by the time they do, it's after the fact because they don't get the papers or subscribe to the papers that we kind of put them in.
Okay, well, the process that we go through does, I mean, it meets the statutory requirements. Anything over and above that, I'd be happy to discuss how we could better reach the public, but I don't have great answers for you right in this moment, but I can certainly discuss that and see what comes of those discussions.
Okay.
Okay?
But the assessment form that people get in their mail says that, mentions the dates and things, doesn't it?
Right. We will send out assessment change notices to those individuals whose value changed due to something other than my equalization. And also this year, and I should note, I don't know if I mentioned this last month or not, this year is the quadrennial assessment year for the Township of Bourbonnais. So all of the assessments that are involved and all of the parcels involved in Bourbonnais Township will get a notice whether they had a change or not. Now, last year it was Kankakee Township. It's a rolling schedule. So this year is Bourbonnais. Next year will be, I think it's sort of like the east half of the county. I have to go look at the list. But this year it's all of Bourbonnais Township. So whether they got a change or not, they will get a notice. So every fourth year, everybody in the county would have a notice in their mailbox whether they got a change of assessment or not. And those dates are on that form.
So that's the notice that is what I'm concerned about, because if they don't get anything in the mail, they're not going to kind of know. So that my biggest thing is to make sure that they kind of know, because I know Kankakee will not unless there's something that's changing in that assessment value or whatever criteria that have to be met in order to kind of send out a special one. So if they don't get it, it's like out of sight, out of mind. And so I'm looking for a way so I can make sure that they will kind of know that this is coming out, because they're not going to receive it in the mail.
Right, like I said, last year Kankakee Township everyone in Kankakee Township received a notice, and so based on that schedule, if I'm counting it out right, then they'll get it again in 2022. 2019 is for Bourbonnais. So, again, those that get a change, apart from my equalization, will get that notice. If there are other ways that we can involve and make sure that the public is aware, we should explore that, and we will.
Thank you for saying so. I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you for that. Anything else? Okay. Thanks for your part.
Have a nice day, folks.
Is there a report from the recorder's office? There she is. I'm anxious to hear what you have to say. There's a report in your file, the packet. Will someone move that it be accepted? Mr. Legest, Mr. Eckhoff seconds it. All in favor of accepting the recorder's report, please say aye. All opposed, say aye. The motion carries.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Any questions on the report? Nope. Okay, good. So I'm going to go right into, first, I'd like to thank County Board Member Swanson for including me in the recent mobile senior fair that we had out at Westwood. It was very, very exciting and interesting and a great opportunity to get the word out about various things, including recording DD 214s, property fraud, and we talked about pretty much fraud just in general. So it was a great day. So thank you for that opportunity.
When was that?
It was last week. Was it last week? That's Thursday. Just to update you, actually, when I was here last week or last month, I talked to you about
Oh.
property fraud a little bit, and my vendor produces a monthly newsletter to all of us recorders, and I just want to let you know that nobody is protected. Halle Berry actually was a victim of property fraud. So just thought I'd share that little article with you for your information, to let you know that nobody is above anything when it comes to bad people out there doing bad things.
It's kind of parallel to the story you told us of the other property
Right,
nearby.
right, here in Kankakee. So, yes, so it's happening everywhere, not just here. So, just a little something for you to read over at your leisure. I have some exciting things to share with you. We finished 1987 in terms of backlog, which was 15,199 documents. They have all been scanned, indexed, and audited, which means verified second keystroke. So we have 1987 concurrent to today. And working with staff, we've been talking about our goals. We have 17 years to fill a gap from when we were doing some stuff that had vinegar syndrome to what we just completed. So we have challenged ourselves that we are going to attempt to fill this gap, hopefully within the next 4 years. And we will have online accessibility from 1987 or 1967 to whatever that current date is. So along with that, we're working still on the book restoration project. Our 8th book is out for restoring. So we're excited about that. And then lastly, I just wanted to share with you, an anomaly is going to happen in October that probably will never happen again. But I was contacted by a bank here in town that will be bringing me 2,500 assignment of mortgages, which is approximately $142,000 some odd dollars, which means it's $57,500 just to the general fund. So this is,
Why? Why?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So they have challenged us to get these done in about 3 days, which we have talked it out. We think we can do this. Number one, I can't budget for this next year. It's not going to happen again. So this will be like, yeah. So there'll be a hurrah in October.
When we get our report.
Yes, right. So don't ask why. But we are prepared. We are ready. We have talked with them. We have figured out how we're going to do this. And everybody will be working really hard for a couple, 3 days. So we're pretty excited about it. We enjoy a good challenge. So.
Golly.
Yeah, so that'll be right around the first week of October. So, yes.
Mr. Snipes.
Now, is this that, is that like a alternative or merger from that episode with MERS?
So MERS still exists, and I can't tell you without seeing what the documents say if these are already going to MERS as well too. Most likely they are. But this is just for a clean chain of title for these 2,500 documents. I can't say properties because there could be more than one on there. But for these 2,500, this is just to show a concurrent clean chain of title,
Good,
which is a very good thing
right.
for the people of Kankakee County.
And you too, easy
Oh,
exit.
yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Did you get a phone call or an email?
He called.
Yes.
So yeah, we've talked a couple of different times, like I said, and they need this done obviously as quickly as possible too. So we've agreed. So it'll be fun. We're looking forward to it. Lastly, my office went through the complete computer upgrade. So we upgraded 14 computers to Windows 10. I want to thank Kevin and Jason. Jason was awesome and at my beck and call pretty much for a week. And everybody is up, running. Everything is perfect and working. And we're getting used to Windows 10. So it's a whole new world. So really, other than that,
How about
it's just another day.
the presentation, Mr. Watkins, from last time? That's continuing to negotiate with the technologies that you mentioned last time.
For Bastion, yes, we're working on the final numbers to include that. I'm working on my computer fund budget right now, so how that's going to look going forward. Yes,
Good.
but it is my expectation to use Bastion as our our server or our secure location for our images and information. So yes,
Oh, this must be cheery today. That's good.
it's things are really looking good.
That's nice
We're-
to hear. Isn't
Yes, we're nice and busy. We like it, and so it's a good thing.
Good.
It's a good day.
Good for you to come and report that. then.
Yeah,
Anything else? Herb?
absolutely. Nope. Anything
Thanks
else?
so much.
Questions? Concerns? Finally, if you're not signed up for Property Fraud Alert, you can call me, come into my office. I have a kiosk, we have computers, or do it from home. It's a link off of my website. If you have family members you're concerned about, it's easy. You can sign them up and have your phone number or email, just so you can, it's a watchful eye. But really, it's important.
Mr. Swanson?
Do you need a parcel number?
Nope, it's by name.
By
So the
name.
important thing is, are you Joe or Joseph?
Oh,
How are things recorded? You can log in or do it both ways. And I apologize in advance for anyone who has the same name as somebody else in the community. You will get their phone calls, and that has happened. But again, I would rather be interrupted for 5 minutes and look into it than in a year find out something really bad's happened and now I got to clean it up.
Summer.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Of course, thanks to Dave Giuliani, everyone knows I sold my house, but your office immediately contacted me when it was filed, so it worked perfectly.
No.
That's really a good story.
Just so you know.
That's a-
I know. Yeah, we don't do that.
It works. What you proved is it works. Yeah. Good job.
And I still live there.
Thanks.
Anything else? All right, have a great day.
Animal control, Julie? There's a report in your packet. It's extended, 3 pages of report. Well, no, a lot of report there, so come sit with us. Someone move that we accept the animal control report. Ms. Dunbar, Ms. Polk will second it, please. Any discussion about it so far? Okay, all in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. The motion is carried.
Good morning.
Hi.
Are there any questions on the report this morning? And then, of course, I have the data on the back. So we've had a couple more bats test positive in July, and I did see that the health department had put a little PSA out on that. They didn't call us about it. Sometimes we've partnered on that in the past, but you know, it's always a concern with the bats, and luckily it's still just bats that we're seeing rabies on, but we respond to those calls. We're still responding to bat calls on a weekly basis, and really August and September tend to be peak for bats. So we anticipate seeing that kind of amp up over the next month or so, and then maybe it'll settle down.
Yes, sir. Mr. Featherly.
In their home. You know, if they've got, you know, we had a call that somebody's seen a bat on a sidewalk. That's not really something we're going to respond to, but it's when they're in your home and you wake up, there's a bat in your bedroom, or all of a sudden there's a bat in your living room, especially if they're in your sleeping quarters and you have no idea how long the bat's been there. If it has landed on you, the bite is so small that it's can easily go undetected. So.
Okay, Mr. Seawright, number 12.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Julie, your strays that come in, when you're checking for ticks, are you checking them for that Heartland virus?
I don't know that we're really checking for the Heartland virus. We've actually have, for the first time, been sending ticks out to a lab that there's no fee, no charge at all for it, but letting us know exactly what kind of ticks they are. And in several samples that we've sent, we are getting the Texas Longhorn tick that is obviously now present in our area. Thankfully, we are not seeing the Asian Longhorn, which there's been a bulletin about that, about the seriousness and the fact that it can really kind of move quickly through livestock animals, and I think they've seen it a little bit on the East Coast. So I'm happy to say that we don't have that yet. But you know, certainly we have products that you know, we manually remove the ticks. We put products on to get those ticks off of the animals. But no, I haven't. You know, we're not looking for that disease.
Want to go on to the next thing? On your agenda, reckless owner.
Yes, last month we had brought this back and there was a little bit of confusion, so I'm back again with it today. What you should have in your packet is some language that shows you reckless owner is defined in state law, but it really pertains to just dangerous and vicious dogs. And another county, Peoria County, who is really pretty good at covering so many things, and they have local language in their ordinance on reckless owner. Not only does it pertain and mimic the dangerous and vicious language of the state, but it also pertains to people that are just really perpetual people being reckless with the animals that they own. They don't stay current. They're constantly running at large. They're constantly a nuisance. And really all we can do is respond, cite them, respond, cite them, you know, impound the dogs if they're running at large, make sure they're in compliance. And it seems to be, for some, a never-ending cycle. So I put some examples together. Certainly I'm not putting out anybody's names. That's not the purpose of this. Just examples, and I probably had 22 in front of me of different names. I thought I could go on, but this is just a little selection to show you guys in an event history of things that we track and document in our software program. You know, an event history is basically telling us what kind of things they've had, whether it's been a violation, an impounded animal, an investigation. And as you can see on some of these, they're, you know, excessive. And when people are calling in, when concerned citizens are calling in about these problems, and we've had 35 and 53 and you know, 58 events where we're going out there and we're citing them. On the other side, the neighborhood and that are going, why can't you do anything more? This is not resolving the problem, and we're doing all we can. So I think that if we looked at reckless dog owner language to put a little more teeth into the responsibility of an owner. And, you know, because really sometimes the animal gets penalized and the owner does not. And we want to put this responsibility on the owner. You know, you can impound an animal, many people, you know, if they don't reclaim the animal, they just go out and get another one, but the behavior stays the same. And there's nothing that really escalates to trying to put a stop to this, or trying to say, look, if this gets this excessive, we could go to a level of a period of time that you don't get to have an animal. While I took Peoria's language because it was there and I didn't want to totally reinvent it, certainly if this committee would be in favor of this, of allowing me to work with our state's attorney on this, I think my goal would maybe to bring it back again next month after the state's attorney's been able to review it, and to look at this and say, yes, this could apply to our county. This is okay. You know, maybe this isn't, because there certainly are some differences between counties. And that's why I used this as an example.
So, and I'll ask you a question too, but what you're proposing here, and in yellow, what does the yellow stand for?
In the yellow, those are sections that pertain to that county that certainly would have to, you know, be changed, because it does not, you know, our chapter is chapter 10, their section is obviously 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I highlighted little things that were obvious, but there are other things in here that the state's attorney may be able to look at and say, no, that, you know, we can't do that here, or I'm not in favor of this.
And are these pages the response you can make to finding the reckless animal owners? Is that these are responses you can cite, you can charge, you can take the animal away? Those are what's here?
These things are a list of tells you, you know, the violations. In that first paragraph, it talks about a reckless dog owner is one who has committed 3 or more violations of our ordinance, our chapter, relating to dogs within a 36-month period. So it's not like, okay, you've made 3 mistakes this month, we're taking your dogs. This is over 3 years. If you look at our examples, you can see that some of these span even 4 or 5 years. Some of them are doing this in a very short amount of time, in under a year, that they're just a really, truly a reckless owner and not being responsible for their pets. They really have careless disregard for how their pets are affecting their neighborhood, their neighbors, and public safety. So, and then this goes on to talk about, you know, define each of that, and then what could happen, the violations and the penalties that we could do if they're found to be reckless.
And none of these penalties are happening now? None of these?
Not this, you know, yes, we can issue a citation. They can go to court. As you can see on the examples, we've written citations many, many times. Once in a while, when somebody's in court, they'll ask for a hearing. And we've done that. Sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. Oftentimes things are getting continued for months and months, and there's just no real resolution or correction that is happening. And we'd like to have something just a little bit tougher, a step up for these folks that just are continually kind of flipping their nose at the laws and going, we don't care, we're going to do this anyway.
Okay, now let's see what your questions are. Ms. Parker, do you have a question? Second 10? Right.
I'm 8. Thank you, Madam Chair. Julie did answer my question of the definition of a reckless owner, but isn't it sad that we have to have laws to protect our animals, and there are no consequences for that, and some people just don't deserve to own a pet? I'm sorry, but to see these examples is terrible. I don't think that the repetition of abuse to animals, I really do not believe that they deserve to be a pet owner. And I hope that we do crack down on them.
Is this what this solves, her concern?
It will help.
It will help.
You know, it's not an ordinance that will say you can never have an animal again, but it's an opportunity to say, you have shown to be a reckless person in your care and management of the animals that you own. And if it gets to this level of excessive, then the ordinance says the animals are going to get impounded and you're not going to be able to have animals for a period of time, but it's not never. Hopefully it's a matter of saying, look, you need to be a better, more responsible person. I truly feel pets are a privilege. They're not something you have to have. And if you're going to have them, you need to take care of them. I always tell people they have two responsibilities when they own a pet. They have a responsibility to their animal, to protect their animal from harmful people or elements. And they also have the responsibility of protecting the public for the bad behaviors of their animal.
Okay, and that's what you're addressing, Mr. Wheeler?
I have a couple of questions. One is for Julie, the other's for the Animal Welfare Committee members. 510 ILCS 5/15 and 5/2, they're both in effect right now, correct?
Yes.
So what is preventing people from filing these complaints in the circuit court at this point right now? When you say that there's nothing we can do and the people are asking and have problems, why are you not telling them that they can file a complaint as a reckless owner as it currently exists under state law?
Because under the state law, it's really involves more of a dangerous or a vicious sanction. And under language that would be under our ordinance, it also pertains to just violations such as failing to vaccinate, constant running at large, more of the lesser offenses. While it does still pertain to dangerous and vicious, because that's in the state statute, it toughens it a little bit. And when we worked on this state law, we had more of this in there, and obviously laws get worked and watered down a little bit, and this is what came out of a very big piece of language under the state statute. So it really, the state law is pertaining more so to dangerous and vicious, declarations.
Well, what I like about this, before my question for the animal control group is the fact that the state took some action and codified it. What I don't like is the fact that it says the animal control administrator will act as the judge and the jury on determining if somebody is a reckless dog owner, and then they will adjudicate themselves before they've had their day in court. They can be ordered to give up their animals before the court case even progresses. And I think that is a massive overreach of government. Before they've even had their day in court, it puts too much power in the hands of animal control and not in the hands of the people to have their case proven. So that is the one thing that I have on that. I will not support this. The other thing is, in its current form, the other thing is that did AWAC vote on this? What was the vote total? Did they vote to support this or not support it?
It is. Thank you. It is on our agenda. We have not had a chance to review this. It is on our agenda for September 11th meeting to go over this entire ordinance.
Well, that's actually not the way that this is supposed to flow. It's supposed to go to AWAC and then come here with a recommendation from that committee.
It did. At the meeting on this week, on Wednesday, the motion was to, by consensus, agree that Julie presents it to this committee.
What was the recommendation, to support it? Or just to let her present it?
We have a reckless owner updates that confirm that, let's see, reckless owner updates support it and confirm for the community service agenda. August 20th, Director Julie Boudreaux to present today.
Yeah, so that was what, because we didn't, it wasn't that we didn't have it at the meeting.
We didn't have it at the meeting. We have not seen all of this as a group. We have not gone over all of this as the group.
But it was mentioned to us that this is
Julie
part of.
was going to present it under animal control today.
Right. In the previous meeting, we had talked, I was not able to be at the AWAC meeting this past week, but in July, we also talked about this.
Right.
And my recollection is that the AWAC group did state that they were supportive of it.
Yep.
And to present it under animal control.
Under animal control,
yes.
Not under AWAC.
Yeah. And Chairman Wheeler, I respect, what you're saying, and I understand it. And that's why I said, I took Peoria's language. They have an adjudication hearing. We do not. So, you know, and that's why I really can't work with the state's attorney on this unless I have the committee's approval to even, you know, to ask for their input. And that's why I'm not asking for a total approval of this just as it's written, but an opportunity to take this and work with the state's attorney and then come back with something that the state's attorney has said, yes, this is viable, this is not. Because I do believe there are some things in here, but I didn't omit them because it, you know, I'm not an attorney. I just took Peoria's language as is written, so, you know, the committee could see what another county did to try to toughen the situations when the ordinance violations, the citations just do not seem to work.
So, Mr. Snipes.
And probably, I'm not gonna say a rare move, but not a common move. I would have to agree in part with Chairman Willie in this regard, because when I was reading it, I noticed we don't have an adjudication department. So the enforcement would, again, go back to the statute of giving the administrator, state's attorney, because if we don't have the wherewithal in order to really enforce it judicially, because we don't have an administrative court, it will send it to a different department. If they have this in Peoria, then they are subject to what they call administrative review. And if they are upon administrative review, that circumvents the court, and as far as the petition is concerned, it only opens it up for review of the adjudication department. So if it's, I'm in agreement to let you proceed to the state's attorney, because they would have to look at the legalistic issues in order to kind of make it more definitive, because other than that, we will have somebody's going to challenge it constitutionally and judicial, as far as who has that judicial supervisory role in order to basically enforce it. And so far, this says the courts, because we're absent of an adjudication department. But I do thank you for getting this or whatever, and I am going to support it to go to your state's attorney, because they will have to battle out the ground where it is, you know, what we can get out of it and what we can't. So that's my comments.
So the effort seems to be so you have something to enforce, that you can enforce what's going on wrong. And
Yes, a step up, a level up beyond what we can do now. And I fully anticipate, if I'm able to work with the state's attorney on this, that they're going to tell me there's parts of this that do not apply to our county and couldn't be added to or amended to an ordinance for us.
Okay. Ms. Delmar, what would you add?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think all of this conversation is irrelevant because I don't believe that the protocol has been met. And I would rather see something firm come out of the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee that says, yes, we've approved something, we agree with this language, and see it all in whole, not somebody else's ordinance, and then come to this committee per Mr. Wheeler's comment that I don't feel comfortable that AWAC has approved everything and that we're all on the same page. So I'd like to see it come directly from committee as a recommendation.
Okay, so that's your recommendation, just to table this here, send it back.
So is the motion to send it back to AWAC for their thoughtful?
So that's Ms. Dunbar's motion, is to send the ordinance back. Ms. Peters seconds it. All in favor of sending back to AWAC for, it's a question, please.
I want to make sure that even though we're sending it back to AWAC, that you're going to be able to work with this state. They're going to work with the state's attorney to make sure that
No,
if you,
I can't work with the state's attorney unless it's
they're
approved.
no, okay,
by the
right.
committee.
Someone has to look at this to make sure that if you bring this back to us, or are we just saying we're going to send it back to them, let them get the approval, and then they're going to get some type of legal, because even they would have to get, right, they would have to get some type of legal thing. So, okay, we'll go that route, because my thing is I want to make sure that there is, the legal side of it is not being lost, and that we're not double working.
Yeah, all right. So, Mr. Wheeler, what would you add to us?
That is the protocol is so we're not involving the state's attorney's office at every third part of every process, because it's definitely arduous on their time and taxing. As after this committee approves something that they want to do and has some type of policy or sample language that they are actually pushing and trying to support, that goes to the state's attorney and to see if those conflicts exist. They can't be at every single meeting for everything because we just don't have the resources to do that. And plus, why would they work on something before we as a committee, who is the policy arm of this, approves it?
Okay.
And so we wouldn't want to have them working on something, put something together that has never made it through this committee, and then it just dies.
Right.
It's wasted money.
Right. So
So-
all your discussions are good and orderly. I like the orderly part. So it's on the mission of AWAC then is to pick this up again and look at it, dissect it, bring it to this committee in a form that seems like it could be approved, maybe a little bit polishing, but
We really haven't had a chance to dissect this at all. We've been working on another ordinance, so this is something that we turned back to Julie if she wanted to expedite this, and because we had no time to review this. So we will put this as on the agenda now. It will be on the agenda to look at it in September.
yeah, so what date in September
The
is that?
September 11th meeting.
September 11th was AWAC will meet again. Mr. Featherly? We do. We'll bring the motion then. All in favor of sending this to AWAC for further determination, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say aye. Okay, motion carried. It'll go that way. Thank you. Thank you for all your discussions and being alert. Okay. Ms. Parker, would you like to become?
I will be more than happy.
While she's coming forward, what AWAC has decided to do is meet before this committee meeting. In the past, we've met after this meeting, and then everything had to roll 2 months before we made any progress.
Thank you so much. Okay.
So we just met the other day.
Good morning, everyone. We would like to present to you that is in your packet, an ordinance that we have dissected and have worked on for several meetings. And with the help of our 2 veterinarians and the experts that work in the field of animal control and shelters.
Hello?
That's okay.
Yeah.
1 out of 12.
That's what I felt like. Adam 12. At the top of the page, it says proposal for additional ordinance to section 510 ILCS 70-3.01, and this is the original ordinance from the state. Now, where it is on extreme temperatures for animals, and we wanted to, with the advice of the committee members and experts in the field, to change some of the language and to adapt it to fit the needs of our county. So you'll see the original section 3.01, cruel treatment, and there are several things about beat, cruelly treat, torment, starve, overwork. Section B is abandon any animal where it may become a public charge. And then C, no owner of a dog or cat that is a companion animal may expose dog, cat to in a manner where they're in a life-threatening situation. And then it continues with results or injury to an animal or results in hypothermia or frostbite. Now, what AWAC is proposing to the committee to discuss is that in section C, where you see above where there are 4 little asterisks, that we want to change may to shall, and that was with the recommendation from our veterinarians to expose the animal or cat in a manner that places the dog or cat in a life-threatening situation for a prolonged period of time in extreme heat or cold condition that, 1, we would like to add, it has already, results in injury to or death of the animal, or 2, results in hypothermia, frostbite, similar condition as diagnosed by a doctor of veterinarian medicine. Now, you'll see at the bottom highlighted in yellow, for the Kankakee ordinance, we would like to add some specifics to that. where it states that a dog or cat cannot be exposed for longer than 30 minutes at a temperature above 90 degrees or below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And the additional statement underneath that, additionally, owners must provide for each of their animals adequate and sanitary shelter that allows the animal protection from the weather, allowing them to maintain safe and normal body temperatures, as well as keep the animal dry all year, have access to, and this is where we want to add in, fresh water at all times as defined in the Kankakee County Animal Control Ordinance, Chapter 10, Section 9FG. And so we're asking just to amend this. It may be, and our advisor from the police force said it might be hard to enforce the 30 minutes because unless you're sitting there watching and videotaping, it'd be hard. But this is just maybe some way that we can get people to pay attention that their animals cannot be outside in extreme weather. We know and understand that some dogs love the snow. You know, they like to be buried underneath the snow. So, but we want to take into consideration of those animals that are left out there, and there are many animals left out there in extreme heat and extreme cold where their animals don't care.
Mr. Seroy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mrs. Parker,
Yes.
I have some concerns about the 30-minute, 90-degree, 32 degrees below. For some of us that live on farmland with our outside cats, you know, it'd be tough to even catch the cat.
Right.
Sometimes to you know, so that we would be in violation if we're the owner of the cat, and I have an outside cat and an inside dog. But I mean, it would be tough to me, being an owner, to get my cat cornered enough to bring him inside. I mean, I think that would be a problem with a lot of farm
understand that.
cats.
Yes.
So I mean, is there something that, you know, because I wouldn't want to push something that would automatically make people be above the law, or, you know, or break the law. So, and I don't want to break the law. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the, you know, I know some cats are inside cats, some
Yes, they
cats are outside cats, you know.
Mine are hothouse tomatoes. They are pampered pussycats, and they like their temperature just right.
At our meeting, we asked, what possible questions will this committee ask?
Was that one of them?
was one
All
of
right,
them.
good.
And
Well,
Dr. Wegner, the veterinarian, said, I understand, but this would be her recommendation, confirm with me, was to place it there as a
Parameters. Sort of parameters of
something to
treatment.
stand on if there is an absurd abuse of it.
okay.
Mr. Featherly?
If somebody goes out with their dog, sorry. If somebody goes out at 5 o'clock in the morning to go duck hunting with their dog, and it's 29, 28 degrees outside, and the dog's running all around, somebody's with them, I mean, that doesn't seem fair that he's breaking the law if he's out there till noon. It doesn't seem right at 32 degrees for 30 minutes. And then you take our own police department. They got the dog walking around. They don't have any water with them. They go out duck hunting. They don't have any water with them. They carry some water in their truck, and every now and then they go back and get something to drink and stuff. This is like outrageous to try to enforce something like this. If you can't enforce the law, you shouldn't have a law.
You know, it sounds very nice to you, but not enforceable is what your
Yeah, well,
conclusion is.
It's going to be hard. It would be hard to
If it's an
enforce.
unattended animal, sure. But I got dogs that love swimming in a pool. It's 90 degrees outside. They're outside. Labs are swimming in a pool playing ball. I mean, they're out there for 2 or 3 hours and they're playing ball. And when they get hot, I take them in the house. It's common sense. But they're out there for more than 30 minutes.
I can usually find my cat underneath the shade tree or under a bush or something when it's real hot, and
So,
you know, it's smart enough to find a breeze, you know.
Right.
I hate to tie up our system with things that can't be taken care of.
And those are questions that we knew that were going to be asked, but our committee wanted to bring this forward because they felt it was a concern, because some people do tie their dogs out and not have shelter for them, nor do they have fresh water for them at all.
The word unattended could could be put in there would help a lot. If you left
The
your
word what?
animal unattended.
Unattended, okay.
If you left your animal unattended for that amount of time.
Someone would still have to prove it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can't-
Exactly,
you
and
can't
that's
prove it,
what-
so.
My cat's unattended now.
Violator.
Yeah.
I'll give him a ticket.
Where's the fine?
And thank you, by the way. I'd support every part of this except for the part about temperature. I think it's unenforceable.
Okay.
I think you'd have to have somebody there with a video camera for 30 minutes. What if it's dying of heat, dehydration, and you have to wait another, I got 7 minutes before I have 30 minutes on the phone.
Right.
I think it's ill-suited. I think if you had Alaskan dogs who want to play outside when it's 5 below, way too
Agreed.
restrictive and overreach again, in my opinion. But everything else in here, I'd be willing to accept and think is a good idea.
So your recommendation, Chairman Wheeler, is that we take it back and eliminate the time limit?
No, I think we could pass it here without the time limit.
All right.
I think it's already. And by the way, what was the vote to? Was it
7-0,
7-0
unanimous.
to approve?
Oh,
To
that was
approve.
unanimous.
Right,
Who were
and
there?
then it's up
Unanimous
to us
vote.
to decide if we want to go with it as it is, if we want to amend it, and so we could say
Right.
either or. And I won't make the motion. I'll let someone else. That was just my own opinion.
Let's go to-
I would agree without the time limit and the temperature, because the temperature changes by the minute sometimes, so I would be in agreement with that without,
what would it
with
say?
fresh water,
Oh,
fresh
you're
water
going
is
on
a
the fresh
big,
water. Okay.
but
We have Mr. Swanson, Ms. Peters, so Mr. Swanson first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can this only be enforced with the reckless documentation that we talked about?
No.
And part two of my question is, all of this, is this anywhere in the county, or is this only the places that you govern, which would be the county area and Shabance
In Buckingham.
and Buckingham? So if this happens in Kankakee, Bradley, or Bourbonnais, doesn't matter to anybody.
Doesn't have any.
yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Unincorporated and the two agreements. And Ms. Peters?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Most of my questions were.
Wait, let me make sure that I have you. Are you 15?
16.
16. Go.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Most of my questions have been answered. I did believe it was too restrictive, and dogs especially, you wouldn't leave a Chihuahua out probably for
No.
even 30 minutes, but my dog would like to be outside in the cold for all day, all day. I don't know if there's a temperature that he wouldn't want to be out. So I thought that was too restrictive, so I'm glad that Chairman Wheeler brought that up. And out hunting, that was a good thing I hadn't thought of. You're right. They don't have water at all times, but
Right.
maybe intermittently available throughout the day, or But if somebody doesn't like hunters, they could use that against them
Exactly,
to harass them, and I'd rather
That's a good
not see
point.
that either.
Right.
So how how would you address that then if they were to
That's true.
be, a neighbor who doesn't like
Right.
dogs at all could harass the neighbor with the dog. So different things like that.
Mr.
So-
Sipes, Ms. Dunbar, Mr. Wheeler, in that order.
Yes, I look at it, as I look at it, I understand the intent. The language has a shift for me, such as when you're saying allows the animal protection from the weather, allowing them to maintain safe and normal body temperatures as well as keep the animal dry all year. Problem is, you are in the rain, I can cite you, that dog is wet. See what I'm saying? You have to be counting some of the things that I'm looking at here. I would not have been opposed to number 3, just the time. I would have, if they would have restated what they stated in C, if they say it states that a dog or cat cannot be exposed to life-threatening situations. I think that would be more reasonable to say than to put a time, situations for a prolonged period of time. I think if that was restated in that would really that would make that statement okay then.
Oh,
Because
thank you.
you're right. So
It's already there.
It's already in there, Mr. Snipes.
yeah, but I'm just saying on number 3 is not. It states that it goes to the 30 minutes. So instead of putting the 30 minutes in there, I'm just saying restate it for a long period
Okay.
of time. Right. Then that would kind of make that okay. As far as that's concerned. So just restating it versus the 30 minutes. And then the other thing is that when I read down further, this says additionally owners, but where you're drawing it from is from shelters. So are we dealing with individuals that are sheltering their animal, or are they dealing with, it's like some of the farms who have their individuals outside and then they can run up in a house or to a dog house for shelter? So I'm trying to think, how are we implementing and to what person are we directing it to?
To owners who irresponsibly tie their animal outside to a chain with limited shelter, maybe 3 walls, and they're out there in the hot without any shade at all. And there are a lot of phone calls for the area that I get of my neighbor has the dog outside, it's been outside in hot weather, there's no water for the dog. And of course, if we went over there and took the dog, we would be charged with dog napping. So this is aimed at those people who are irresponsible and not taking care of their dogs and making sure, if they're laying in the hot sun without shelter, that's cruel. That's what we're aiming at. The farm dogs, they could go into the barn, they have places, they probably have water. Farmers do treat their animals extremely well, but we're talking about people who own animals that are irresponsible and should not have them. Mm-hmm. And this is what our vets are recommending, because they come in and in bad condition, they're dehydrated, and it's bad for the animal. This is who we're going after.
Ms. Dunbar and Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So it seems to be the consensus of the committee that the time and temperature restriction is overreaching. So if we don't add that, the only thing we're changing is the word may to shall. Is that correct?
So far, yes, and
no, that's right.
I'm just understanding this whole conversation is about one word.
I think it seems to be based on that, what you just said.
Yes.
There's a little other change in part C.
In part, yes.
Just the fresh water.
Fresh water and a shelter, meaning 4 walls and a roof.
I'd like to make a motion that we make that change and move on.
Second by Mr. Legess. Is there a discussion, Mr. Wheeler, you wanted to add?
Yeah, all I wanted to add was is when you look at C as it is amended in this motion, that is all the teeth that we need at this point. And it actually, I think the cruelty to animals, the cruel treatment does apply within municipalities. So if somebody has a dog chained up with no water, they can call an animal control and act and does not have to be invited in. So this gives you the teeth, and I think by removing 30 minutes and 90 to 32 degrees takes away the problematic part of it that would not allow the court case to be won.
Okay.
You have a better chance of proving it, I think, under that system.
So what's the change? The change is only shall?
It shall, and it's also that places a dog or cat in a life-threatening situation for a prolonged period of time in extreme heat or cold. Then it's up to a judge to determine if it's extreme.
It's already part of it on the
It's already
page.
part of that. Yeah. That's part of the original. We're just changing where it's highlighted. We just want to change may to shall.
No, I mean, I was just saying that the life-threatening situation is extreme heat or cold. That gives you the teeth. And so let the judge determine what that is based on the breed, based on the fact if it's laying outside and everything's fine, and it's got a shelter. I don't think there's a way to enforce it.
So then we'll remove the temperature and then the time limit, correct?
So is your motion to go back, Ms. Dunbar, to go back to the committee, or approve it as is?
No, just approve it
with the shall.
the temperature and time restriction.
So your motion is to add the word shall instead of may, period.
And then the fresh water.
And the fresh water, okay. Okay, that's good. Motion has a second. You have a second, right? Yeah, Mr. Legess, seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, again, we appreciate your interest, and you can see the fervor that Ms. Parker has, but we can.
Fervor.
Fervor's good, practicality is also good, so.
2 R's.
Fervor.
2 R's.
So
Ms. Peters, what would you say?
Does that include also the shelters, 4 walls and a roof?
That definition's already.
Because I do remember in the last few years talking
We
about.
did talk about shelter,
Yeah, so why do we have to put it in here if it's already in an ordinance somewhere?
It is, that's why it's not brought up, because it's already there.
yeah.
Right, but here it says it's a change. It's in yellow, so it's,
First
not
one,
in
are
the-
you talking the shelters being 4 walls and a roof?
right,
Yes.
that's a change in here. It's in yellow, so that means it's a change.
It's already in our ordinance, a
Correct.
definition of shelter, and I think they're just basically
Emphasis.
emphasizing that in this language.
Oh,
Because
see,
So, but it's redundant, so.
it's redundant, it is, it's just that we emphasize that because
just to explain to people what that is. So it's there. Be comfortable, it's there. All in favor of those teeny beeny things change, say aye, please. Opposed, say no. What have we approved? Have we approved sending this to the state's attorney?
Yeah, they look at
All right.
all ordinances. before
Okay,
they go
so that's
forward.
what the minutes will reflect, that we approved sending it to the state's attorney. Okay,
okay.
And to the county board.
Just,
back to the county board.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
just a point of, maybe parliamentary procedures, because we are adding or changing an ordinance, requires a roll call vote? Because it requires a certain number, or do we just wait till it gets to the county board?
County board, I mean, yeah.
Just wait till it gets to
this
the county
voice
board?
vote here.
It's a recommendation to go, this was a recommendation to go to the state's attorney.
Okay, that's
actually.
fine.
I'm sure that state's attorney will have language.
Under new or old business, so just something you received as an email, but just as a reminder about the reception, the naming of the building, Tim E. F. Bukowski Public Safety Center, August 29th, which is not this Thursday, but next Thursday, from 10 to 11 a.m. Is there any other new business or old business? Mr. Snipes?
I'm thinking, I wanted to reference to the county clerk, but I guess with the chairman here, they can kind of answer. I do know that the city of Kankakee goes in when we have the tax bidding, and they basically buy the property at the minimum bid. At one time, we had a problem with the fact that other people wanted to bid on the property, but the city gets it at the lowest bid. And we generally have it where individuals can bid and be a part of the process. And I'm wondering so I can explain it, how is there something in our ordinance, or is it something in the state that allows maybe a government or a municipality to take a tax item away from the bidding process because they want it, and then at the minimum bid? Or can we negotiate that bid a little bit higher than the minimum bid? Because that, again, at some point in time, what's left over does come back to the county, whatever little bit there is.
Well, it goes back to the taxing districts, and actually, this is a better question for the treasurer who runs the tax sale. But we did get a ruling on that at one point. I can look through my state's attorney opinions. I can look through the opinions because there was a municipal government that was doing that and pulling it back, and it was my recollection that you can't do that. You have to put it out there and you bid as far as the municipal government. But I can get you an answer. It's just I can't remember because it was like three years ago. So
Well, the only reason I brought that back up is because I was at their meeting last night, and they've already approved that they are paying only the $750 plus something, which is only $800 something, and the land, the riverfront land, is actually going to them. And I was wondering, because I recall that you stated something, that there was a law that was out there that kind of addressed the issue, but I see that it's being done again. And so I just thought, maybe we need to revisit it since they all.
I'll talk to the treasurer after we leave here, because if that's happening, we just need to make sure that's being done the right way. Maybe they authorize the $750 bid to put that in, thinking that no one else is going to buy it. If the price goes up, I don't see how the taxing districts can be forced to lose. The school district I'm talking about, the municipal governments.
Where it takes it off the road.
Sorry, those properties are part of the FEMA grant for the city to redo and prevent flooding though. So I think that might be why that.
Well, they don't have to pay for it though, I don't think. I think that just automatically goes.
Yeah, but see, the other one wasn't. We was talking about the Skyler property at one time. That's why you had
Where they
Patrick wired it, right? They just took it off they take it off the tax thing, so it cannot be bidded. So that's what I'm saying. How's that process work? Because sometimes they're taking it off the bidding, so you don't get the opportunity to bid.
Right,
And
I've
that's
seen that
what-
happen in the past.
Yeah.
Especially with the building you're talking about right now. We'll find out.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Parker, what else?
I just had one thing to add on AWAC. We're still accepting applications for committee members for AWAC. As you can see, we work very hard and we're very passionate about what we do. So please, if you go online, you can get the application, and we'd certainly like to have community people and shelter people come join us. And just one more thing, I just want to thank everyone for all the prayers and concern. As you know, my grandson is in ICU at Riverside Hospital after an accident, so thank you so much. It means a lot to our family to know that there are prayers going up for him. Thank you.
I've received an email on this. I have not received my official letter from the Department of Ag, basically letting us know that 3 bills were signed into law. Public Act 101-02110, or I'm sorry, 0210, and it talks about kennel requirements. This language was brought forth in relations to the fire that happened up north that took the life of many dogs. So there's some additional requirements there. Public Act 101-0295 amends the Animal Welfare Act and the Animal Control Act. Changes the fee structure, which hasn't been changed in many, many years. Breaks out where one license used to cover everything. Now, if you're a boarding facility and a breeder and a shelter, you have to have separate license for each. There's some other language in there as well. And Public Act 101-0299 passes a law where all cats have to have rabies in the state of Illinois, and talks about situations with feral cats as well if they're presented to a vet.
Okay, Mr. Whaler.
The one of those that concern me the most, at least from our standpoint and what we have to deal with, is that all of the shelters, animal control facilities have to have sprinkler systems. That is a very expensive proposition, and I don't know how the shelters are going to be able to comply with that. It's a lot of money, and you have to go straight into the main. You can't go like out of the spigot. You know, that's all these fire suppression systems are a big deal. So when we start to look at that, I didn't bring it here yet because I wanted to kind of get an idea what was going on, but that's a lot of money, especially for the shelter partners in the area, because they have to retrofit their buildings and they're on a shoestring budget as it is.
As
So
we all are.
could have a big impact.
Okay.
Yep.
If there isn't any other business, would someone move? Ms. Dunbar moves for sure. Any second? Ms. Polk seconds. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Any opposed, say aye.